Oh, sure. I mean, it was a really, really, really good win. I'm not here to dispute that. But there's one thing about the Penguins' 1-0 shutout of the Bruins yesterday at PPG Paints Arena that I didn't like, and I'm not prepared to let it go. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday morning. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer up daily shots of Steelers and Pirates. They played really, really well. I'm going to say it again. I thought that it might have been the Penguins' most complete 200-foot performance of the season, given how hard Boston came out, given how well Boston had been playing of late, given that the Penguins played Saturday while the Bruins were off. There's just so much to like across the board about what the Penguins did. It's the model for how they should perform in the playoffs. So how could any sane individual come up with a theme for today's show about something that they didn't like? Well, you're welcome, because here it comes. I am not a fan of Sidney Crosby matching up with Patrice Bergeron. And I'm not a fan of any form of that. And I am really, really, really not a fan of thinking about how that might be applied in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think that's a fair thing to bring up, arguably even fairer to bring up after a success than after a failure. Because then it just looks like you're singling out this one thing or whatever to suit a stance that you've already formed. And I formed this one a long time ago, and I don't expect it to change. Open to it changing, but not expecting it. If you have a star line, a number one line that is considered to be among the best in the NHL, and I think that's a very fair statement to make about Sidney Crosby, Jake Guentzel, and Brian Rust, then I don't see the point in lining them up opposite one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in all of hockey, in Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, and David Pastrnak. Makes no sense to me. I understand the thinking that they can cancel each other out, that there's some kind of challenge that's put forth. Crosby has become such an outstanding defensive center, and one of the people who's kept him from getting the recognition for that he arguably deserves is, of course, Bergeron, a many times Selke Trophy winner as the league's best defensive forward. So there's something in there that's motivational, whatever, that keep those guys focused on defending as hard as they attack and whatever else here. That, to me, makes for not much of a reason to do this, because I don't think, in general, of Crosby, Guentzel, and or Rust as, needing some kind of swift kick. These guys do pretty well without that. And I also understand within that the idea that because Boston doesn't have much depth beyond that first line. I mean, David Krejci and Taylor Hall have done some good things for them lately, but you can't look at that team and say, oh, yeah, they just come at you. In fact, after this game yesterday, Bruce Cassidy ripped his third and fourth lines for not contributing at all. I said, they don't have much, they don't get much. I just don't see why you commit Crosby to trying to shut this group down. I really don't. You have players for that. If you can't trust Teddy Bluger, Zach Aston Reese, Evan Rodriguez, guys like that you have on your roster who are principally checkers, to handle a task like that, then why are they on the team? I get that they're not going to out-Corsi the Bruins' top line. Almost nobody does that at 5-on-5. But you don't have to. All you have to do is keep them from scoring. If your mission out there is singular, then it's that much simpler. It doesn't matter if they beat you on, shot attempts and all the other data that gets inputted into hockey's analytics. It doesn't matter if they don't score. There's only one thing that matters out of that equation. It's that they don't score. So if, for example, let's say the Bluger line does a pretty nice job of keeping those guys at bay, keeps them to the outside of the rink, and Teddy gets to center red and he just kind of slides it in, just dumps it in. Maybe they do a little bit of effective forechecking or whatever, but they don't need to go taking any risks. They don't need to go down there and try to generate shots of their own. If they do, it's a bonus, but you just tell them, look, man, just keep these guys off the board. That's all you got to do. Conserve your energy. Do everything that you're intending to do on this day in the defensive zone. The benefits to that should be robustly clear after this particular game. Believe it or not. This portion of Daily Shot of Penguins is brought to you by Fubo TV. The monthly cost of cable is over $200. Fubo TV is $65 a month to watch all the same channels, including AT&T Sportsnet Pittsburgh. DVR comes for free. There's no such thing as installation. There's no contracts you can cancel anytime. There's really no catch to any of this. It's just a better deal. Fubo TV right now has an even better deal than that better deal, and that's that they're offering our listeners of this podcast a 7-day free trial and 15% off your first month. All you have to do is go to FuboTV.com/DK. One more time, FuboTV.com/DK to get 15% off your first month. I asked Mike Sullivan after this game why he likes the Crosby versus Bergeron matchup. Mike, you've gone with Sid against Bergeron pretty consistently for a while now. What is it that you like about that matchup? And within that, how much do those guys tell you that they like it? Meaning Sid, Jake, and Rust.
Well, I think, I've used Sid's line against other teams' top lines in my whole tenure here. We don't get totally locked into it, and sometimes circumstances in games may change that match depending on if we're defending a lead, if we're chasing a lead, things of that nature. So, but I've always believed, in that Sid and his line mates, whoever they are, can play against anybody, and they're a solid defensive line. But they also have the ability to score goals. They can be dynamic offensively, so there are benefits to it. When you look at Sid now with Jake and Rusty, both Jake and Rusty are good two-way players. They have a good defensive conscience, and they have the ability to score goals. So, like I said, it all depends on circumstances, how the game plays out. But I've never been one to shy away from Sid playing against anybody. I just think he's that good.
And that's fine. That's his right as a head coach. And he's correct in pointing out past successes in this regard. But I don't feel it, much less see it. In this game, when Crosby and Bergeron shared the ice, Just the two of them, although that meant, obviously that the other guys were out there with them a lot because there weren't any real power plays in this game. One very late. These guys went at it a lot. 10 minutes of head-to-head hockey, 5-on-5. That's significant. And in that time, Bergeron's line generated 14 scoring chances. Crosby's line, 9 scoring chances. And yes, I hear you. I know who scored the only goal of the game. It was Jake. But it happened against Boston's fourth line. You know how? It came at the end of an icing. The Bruins guys, of course, because of the rules, are trapped. They can't come off the rink. Bruce Cassidy can't make the change that he wants to make. Whereas Sullivan can, and smartly does, send over the boards his top line, and for that matter, his top defense pairing of Chris Letang and Brian Dumoulin. Lo and behold, 21 seconds and 13 Pittsburgh touches later, Gensel scores. Why? Because they were facing inferior talent. That's how it goes. That's how it's gone throughout hockey history. It's not that the Crosby line outplayed the Bergeron line, although arguments can be made toward that end. Certainly in the area of high danger chances, where the Penguins were significantly better than Boston 11-2 overall. But there's a huge advantage that you're bypassing on purpose by not having your best line out there against the other team's worst, or against their second or third defense pairing. In this case, it was Boston's second pairing. And they got eaten up, man. They got eaten up. Cassidy was complaining about that openly afterwards. You had one shift, you had one responsibility where you needed to do something, and you didn't do it. He was upset because he knew he had no choice. He couldn't alter the lines that he wanted to. I'm not in favor of this. I'm not in favor of it whether it's against Boston. I'm not in favor of it if it's against the Islanders and Matt Barzal. I'm not in favor of it if it's against the Capitals and Alexander Ovechkin. And I'm definitely not in favor of it against what might be the best line in the entire division. And I really hope that what happened yesterday, as positive overall as it was for the club, doesn't bolster that sentiment within the Penguins and within Mike Sullivan's brain. But I'm pretty sure that it did, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see it when these teams meet again. Same place tomorrow night. When we come back, just one question. Welcome back. It's time for Just One Question. That's brought to you always on this program by the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, where they are committed to providing food for all of our neighbors in need across Western Pennsylvania. And they, in turn, need your help. Go to pittsburghfoodbank.org to find out how $1 from you can translate to 5 full meals for them. $1 equals 5 meals. pittsburghfoodbank.org. Question comes from Jim, who asks, based on the remaining schedule, how do you think this division finishes out? I'm saying Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington, New York. I don't know. I mean, my inclination remains to say that I don't care. I mean, divisions are nice. Division championships, banners are nice. They give teams something to rally around when the season ends. It's another piece of laundry that goes up into the rafters at some point. And you feel good about it, and you feel like you achieved something. Probably less in hockey than in other sports, but it still feels like something. And at the same time, I'm looking at this division this morning, and I see that the 4 teams you mentioned are separated by 7 total points. The Penguins are now, of course, in first place at 32, 14, and 3. The Bruins are in fourth place at 27, 14, and 6. If it's Pittsburgh versus Boston in the first round, like I'm okay with that. You know, I mean, this was competitive and all that, but this was also without Evgeny Malkin, Brandon Tanev, Freddie Gaudreau. You know, this isn't a situation where I think you look at these teams and say, well, who finishes here and who finishes there and who do you not want to face? I mean, the one team that I still think about as not wanting to face in the first round are the Islanders, and all the Penguins did was win 6 out of 8 games against these guys. And looked pretty convincing doing so. I think they threw things at Barry Trotz's passive system that the Islanders haven't seen from anybody else. The Islanders are probably dreading facing Pittsburgh. They're probably thinking of ways to avoid a date with the Penguins. But how will it finish? Based on remaining records and so forth, I don't know. I mean, I could see the Penguins kind of coming back to earth. They've had a really good run for a while, and I could also simultaneously see everybody freaking out and blaming Malkin if he's involved in that, even peripherally. But I just don't know. I could see the Penguins hanging on to this, you know. It won't be easy, but it's also not. It's also not all that important. I don't know. You're asking for an order of division finish, and I don't want to duck the question. So I'll give you Washington, Pittsburgh, Islanders, and Bruins. And I'm probably going to be wrong because off the top of my head, I believe that Boston has a whole lot of Devils and Sabres left. And the Penguins have some of that as well, too. So, whatever. Can we just start the playoffs? Let's just do that. Let's just start the playoffs like, I don't know, Thursday or something. Seem fair? Cool. All right, we'll do another one of these daily shots of Penguins tomorrow. Playoff preview.
At Point Park University, in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh, they understand there's no substitute for real-world experience and career-building connections. Their innovative curriculum engages students with distinctive experiential learning opportunities. Point Park's pioneering co-op program empowers qualified students to work in full-time, paid positions with their corporate partners while earning college credits. Visit pointpark.edu/works to learn more. Career ready. That's the point. Point Park University.
Your front door, your car, your gym locker, your gun. Safety is a habit. Learn more about how to keep guns safe and secure. Visit projectchildsafe.org.